All right, folks, welcome back to the Marketplace Show Reset, segment number 3 on technology, e-commerce. We're called Tech Talk. And this is going to be a continuation, part 2 of our discussion on smart city technology and Internet of Things, IoT, and the digital transformation of not only the U.S. Virgin Islands economy, infrastructure, but the rest of the region and the rest of the country and the rest of the world. This is important because as we look at the monumental task of rebuilding the United States, America's infrastructure, we're talking about, rebuilding the roads, the bridges, the tunnels, the highways, the ports, you name it, the waterways, the power plant, waste management. We're talking about just airports. We're talking about really rebuilding infrastructure, housing, schools, you name it. This is the whole major infrastructure rebuild, and the president's commitment to rebuilding America better. And what this means is it's good news for all of the U.S. states, cities, town, boroughs, U.S. territories like the U.S. Virgin Islands. We will now have the funding to be able to rebuild our infrastructure. So infrastructure that have been decaying for years, in deplorable condition. We now have an opportunity, especially when you look at the fact that every year we reckon with the fact that we have to encounter annual hurricanes, and we never know if we're gonna bite the bullet or, come out of this thing unscathed. But obviously, the cost of rebuilding the infrastructure each time after a natural disaster is a tremendous cost factor. And so when we talk about smart city technology, the Internet of Things, we will talk about how smart city technology is going to be the next big thing, a game changer, because it's not only about rebuilding and making infrastructure more hardened, more resilient, but having a smarter infrastructure that can detect and anticipate and predict, things that are going to be impacting us on our daily lives. And so I'm looking forward to that. Earlier on part number 2, segment number 2, and part 1 of the smart city technology and Internet of Things and the digital transformation, I played this year's. No one from the Virgin Islands attended this year due to the pandemic, obviously, and the time difference. Like I said, there's a 13-14 hour time difference between ourselves and Taiwan. So when it's daytime there, it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning here. And obviously, that doesn't work. And so we did not participate, but we look forward, hopefully, if things change, to be in Taiwan next year. But I'm joined by my colleague who is on this segment on technology, e-commerce, and tech talk, Michael Girard. He is the CEO of Core Finance, and he's a fintech startup company. And Michael was on the first trade delegation, the 20-member delegation of both public and private sector representatives from the Virgin Islands community in attendance in Taiwan at this Smart City Summit. And so he can share with you his experience. I'm also expecting, like I said, our other colleagues who attended, and hopefully their schedule permit and they're able to join us, and they can share with you, their experience and what their takeaway was when they attended not only the first but subsequent trade mission to Taiwan as well. Michael, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Doing great. I'm actually very happy to hear you talk about this because I've been wondering if our 2040 vision is encompassing, or are we, catering to this new development by the president? Because I think it would do wonders for us. I think it should put us in a place where we're closer to get to that 2040 vision than ever before, at least in my opinion.
And the reason that is just such a important point you're making. So when we talk about the Virgin Islands economy and what exactly that is, just as a FYI, I'm going to be the guest speaker today, this evening, speaking to the Harborside Rotary Club about the potential of the blue economy.
Right.
And so clearly, not only I will provide an overview of what that is, but how smart city technology is going to play into, being able to build a viable blue economy. And so when we talk about what are the opportunities to diversify the U.S. Virgin Islands economy, and what industry can we attract, there is no doubt in my mind, no matter what industry you're talking about, the one industry that is going to be paramount to attracting any other industry is the technology industry.
Yep.
Because technology, all of the technology, state of the art, innovative technology, legacy technology, all of that is in flux, is in transformation. And so the digitization of not only the U.S. Virgin Islands economy, but the United States economy and the rest of the world. And so everyone is literally racing. Part of the, like you said, the 2040 vision, whether or not the 2040 vision really is paying close attention to the smart city technology component for rebuilding the infrastructure. We were devastated by Hurricane Irma and Maria in 2017, and the task of rebuilding. Now we are dealing with, obviously, we're in a pandemic and having to deal with the delay and the impact of not getting that rebuild in a timely fashion. But now we're talking about where the Virgin Islands is going to be the recipient of federal dollars to rebuild existing and the required infrastructure in order to position ourselves to be attractive and to have an attractive, competitive infrastructure to be able to grow our economy.
And it's not just an infrastructure too, right? It's a wide array of different things, different industries, different public sectors. And again, it goes back to the point, if we're thinking about that and how we're going to get funding for these different industries, different sectors, then the question is, how do we implement technology to aid us or enable us in all of these different sectors? Because we had conversations about, restaurants, different types of businesses, shipping or transportation, and how it, envelops technology. So we can't just see it as a one-dimensional solution or problem, but as something that says, well, we have the funding now. How can we enable our public sector to be, future-proof for at least the next, 40, 50 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so and especially if we're going to, when we talk about this new environment of, like you said, the human infrastructure, right? The human capital, how do we prepare Virgin Islanders for the future? And I can't put it any simpler in a simpler fashion. When we talk about creating jobs for Virgin Islanders, we're talking about giving them the education, the training, and the skill sets to prepare them for those future jobs, where those jobs opportunities are going to be. And the future is going to be about remote work, working virtually. The future for Virgin Islands workforce is not going to be about a company being domiciled physically in the Virgin Islands, but what Virgin Islanders are going to be employed by companies who are not physically located here and are physically located somewhere else. And so in order for that to work, you're going to have the infrastructure. You're going to have the human capital, workforce skill sets for those jobs that are going to become available. And you're going to have the required infrastructure, bandwidth, communication, broadband communication network in order for not only for human communication, but in order for devices to communicate with each other. So no matter where you are in the Virgin Islands, whether you're in Charlotte, Damali, or Bavoni, or you're in Frederickstead or Christianstead, no matter where you are in St. John's, no matter where you are, you have the ability to work remotely, virtually, telecommute, to be able to be able to provide, to make a living for yourself and for your family. And technology is going to do that. And so earlier on part one, I talked about the difference between before there was 5G, there was 4G and 3G. And
Yeah.
while it was necessary to have 3G and 4G technology then was enough for the human to human communication. But when
Yeah.
we're talking about electric vehicles, automated driving vehicles, and traffic lights and sensors and solving crime, in order for devices to communicate with devices, cars to communicate with traffic light, for the ambulance to communicate with the hospital, in order for that to happen, you need the technology, you need the 5G technology that will allow the bandwidth and the speed for devices to be able to
Yeah.
communicate with each other.
And something I always tell people is to think about, if they notice when power goes out in their particular region or island, if they notice when they're using their cellular devices, right, connected directly to their cellular company, they might notice that their internet is a bit slow. And the reason is because there's so much people on the bandwidth at the same time that were immediately jolted there because they're no longer connected to Wi-Fi, because it's probably an island-wide shutdown or at least a regional shutdown. So 5G, if you think about it, is a very simplified solution to that. I'm oversimplifying the explanation here, but it's pretty much the same thing. If you have lots of things on the bandwidth, then everything moves slower, then everything doesn't communicate properly. If you think about, electric cars and the direction that we're going into today, certain cities around the world are talking about having the traffic lights connected to cars. So that way the car doesn't have to use, software engineering to read what color of the light it is, yellow, red, green. It knows because traffic light is telling it. Those things need very, very, very fast internet speeds, and it also needs a large bandwidth to support it, right? Because not only those services or equipment using it, it's us as well. Video quality has increased. If we think about just the video quality on this video, a few years ago, this would be in 10, well, it's probably in 1080p now, but it would be probably in 720 or less. So, we're using it a lot for our streaming services, for our day-to-day. We're using it a lot to order pizza. So it's crucial that we have this infrastructure in place to enable things to happen efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully our other colleagues who were part of the first delegation, those who said they are going to try to participate, they call in. But let's talk about the first trip and you being part of that 20-member U.S. Virgin Islands private sector, public sector delegation attending the first Smart City Summit in Taiwan, and talking about the foundation, laying the foundation of of the required building blocks to build on that foundation going forward. I don't know if a lot of people realize Taiwan wasn't always in the position they're in today as a leader, as an economic power, as a major technology leader. Before they made a decision and they pivot to go in a different direction, they were a strong agrarian society.
Yep.
They one of the things that's akin to the Virgin Islands and why they feel so a sense of wanting to work and help the Virgin Islands, because like the Virgin Islands, Taiwan is an island, be it a larger island with 24 million people. They're an island, and they're part of the Southeast Asia archipelago. Okay, Malaysia and I believe the Philippines, all these different, different countries, Asian countries, are in that archipelago in the Southeast Asia. And what they said, the first thing they said to me that really resonated with me was, they said, if they could do it, we could do it too. And what they're saying was, 60 years ago, their poverty level was the same poverty level which was comparable to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Think about that. Before they made a collective decision as a community, as a people, as a nation, they were strong. That's where they basically, agriculture was where they put a lot of their time, effort, and resources. But they realized that was not enough. If they were going to create economic prosperity and wealth, and if they were going to create an advanced society, they needed to be able to transition out to a different industry. And so when we go there, we are treated and we are embraced because we have a willing partner who is saying that they would like to be able to avail the necessary know-how and capabilities and resources to be able to allow, islands, because we're part of the United States, of course, but other Caribbean countries as well, being able to put in place the components to make us do the things we need to do to be able to get to that point as well. And so I want you to talk a little bit about your experience, that trip, your experience, and your takeaway coming out of that. Please.
Well, I concur with what you were saying. From the moment I got there, everyone was very friendly, very welcoming. We did some few private sessions where we learned a bit about the history of Taiwan. We went to different temples. It was an amazing experience all the way around. Their technology, they're very open to moving forward. And it's very strange because one of the things that we have in the Virgin Islands is that we have a struggle with our traditions and our culture. How do we preserve it as we move forward and keep up with the 21st century? But I think that somehow they strike the balance with it. They're very, very high tech. They have, I think half of the toilets I use there, talk back to me when I walked in. It was crazy. But even though they're embracing the modern business practices and technology, they're very grounded in who they are, their culture, their past, their history, and they make it known through that. So I think that's something that we can probably learn from as well. But in terms of the senators, I think we met with the president there as well. It was very, very welcoming. They were very kind. They shared a few tips that we can also implement here in the Virgin Islands, which is one is community just effort and working together, identifying goals. So, not only are we working together, but we know what we're working towards and what we're working on. I think the 2040 vision is something that we needed many years ago, because we can all tie around this one goal. Whether it's right or wrong, at least we know what we're doing. We know where we're supposed to be, right? And very last thing is just preservation of love and care of your own community, right? So the way how I interpret it, at least, is really understanding that you might have people from different boroughs with slightly different backgrounds when you are in an island that's a melting pot. But the key to it is, are they doing things to enhance our living conditions? But also, are they doing things to, help us understand who we are and preserve who we are, right? So I took a lot from that trip. Frankly, it was a little bit overwhelming because it was a lot in just a few days. It was a lot. I took back a booklet, and it was very thick. It's about an inch and a half thick, and it was just compact. It was just dense with information and things that we went through in our itinerary there, the folks that we met, the relationships that we built. It was a lot, but it's definitely something that I appreciated and I learned a lot from. And I wish that we can find deeper rooted ways that we can at least kind of find some synergies and work together, apply some of their best practices, but under the context of the Caribbean and the US, of course, right?
No, exactly. And the when you look at um, the chemistry, like you said, right? You know, Taiwan has a lot to prove, and they have a very different approach to their what you call what I'm looking for. Um, okay, so there is mainland China, which is communist China, right? Beijing,
Yeah.
okay, and Taiwan. So one is the People's Republic of China, that's communist China, Beijing, China, which is very different to Taiwan, which is the Republic of China. They're the democratic society of China. So often you've heard the narrative by Beijing before they changed the rules of the game. Both Hong Kong and Taiwan were basically a part of this one China, two system structure. Okay, that's the narrative they kept pushing, because China, mainland China, Beijing, China, the People's Republic of China, is, in terms of the United Nations, is considered, having all the official diplomatic relationship as a country in the UN. Okay, and so what you have, drawn a clear distinction between the two, because people tend to mix it up all the time. While the ancestry and descendants of Taiwan are Chinese, we're talking two different societies. The People's Republic of China, which is mainland China, Beijing, China, is communist China. Taiwan is the democratic society, which is called the Republic of China. I don't know if I can, I don't think I can put it any plainer, more simple than that. I hope it's not confusing, because people need to understand, when they hear the stories, there's a difference between the two. Okay. And Taiwan, 24 million people. Beijing, mainland China, 1 billion people. Big difference, right? 24 million, 1 billion people. Okay. Taiwan is on an island. And so therefore, Taiwan does not embrace communism. And so they themselves, on the world stage, has so much, they have a lot to prove, that they are for real, they are the real deal. And so they've had to really push the envelope and really advance their economy, their socioeconomic situation, their politics, but more important, decide what industries in which they want to be good at. And there's one thing they're good at, is technology. And so we have an opportunity to partner with a willing partner that don't want to give you a fish, they want to teach you how to fish. So to your point, when you talk about the reception and how we will receive and the interaction with us, the approach with Taiwan doesn't want to give you a fish. Taiwan want to teach you how to fish. Beijing, different story. Beijing is spending money, pull out their checkbook, and they're giving you the fish. They're not teaching you how to fish. And when I say that, for example, when you deal with mainland China, you borrow money from them, you got to use their manpower, you got to use their equipment, you got to use their material. It's all inclusive. You see, they give you the fish, they don't teach you how to fish, and you're on the hook with them. Okay, different approach in how Taiwan is approaching their strategic relationships and partnerships, especially their strongest ally and biggest trade partner is the United States. And the reason why we, the U.S. Virgin Islands, as part of that relationship, are able to do the things that we do. What do you say?
No, I agree. I think that there's a clear distinction similar to Hong Kong versus Taiwan and China. I think it's very debatable in terms of who owns what and what belongs to who. But definitely, I do think that there's a keen difference with how they do business. They seem to be very forward-leaning and very open to helping different communities. And I felt that just just how they approach us, the word choices, the settings that they decided to meet us in, and where we kind of grow our relationships throughout the trip. It was clear that their goal wasn't necessarily to take. Any relationship, any successful relationship involves having a give and a take, right? But it was very clear that they want to give, at least at this stage right now. And that was definitely felt very, very early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And specifically, as we talk about opportunities uh, on the workforce, on the human capital and the workforce development side, there's going to be an exchange, education exchange. There's going to be an opportunity for Virgin Islands students to study in Taiwan. Okay, just so people understand some of the things we're forged, the relationships and the program that we're forging. Hopefully, when we come out of this pandemic and we can start all traveling like normal again, you know that what will happen is uh, uh, young people from the U.S. Virgin Islands will have an opportunity to go spread their wings and travel over to Asia and learn about another part of the world. You know, understanding the Indo-Pacific region, understanding the languages and the culture and the history, and also in reverse, Taiwanese will also come to the Virgin Islands because we are we are a tourism destination. And so what they want to be able to do is to have their young people come to the Virgin Islands and intern in the Virgin Islands to get exposed to our tourism, our hospitality environment. And so we will find synergy where we can create an exchange of relationships, not just economically, but educationally and culturally as well. Today, we're talking about the smart city infrastructure and how Taiwan and other countries, Europe right now is getting ready, just like how uh, the U.S. has the U.S. Virgin Islands having the fiber optic network running from Frederiksted St. Croix to South America, providing South America, the continent of South America, the fiber for internet speed. Europe is now talking about building the same fiber optic network to connect Europe to South America. Europe is now just doing that. We've done that. We've had this in place for almost 25 years, and we have not maximized. We have not built on internally. Not obviously it has its external purpose, but internally we have not leveraged and maximized that infrastructure and how we build this. We now have this opportunity to be able to really leverage what we have interior wise, internally with the U.S. Virgin Islands through the smart city technology infrastructure. Did I explain that right? I want to make sure that that was clear as to what we have and how we need to go about being able to position ourselves to attract, to create work, virtual and remote work for our Virgin Islands workforce, but also to attract new companies to the Virgin Islands because we're going to have the infrastructure for businesses, and we're going to have the infrastructure for the human capital.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's very similar to discussion that we had maybe a month ago now. I think people just kind of, and I've been asked this before when, right after we log off, I think some folks are, you know, not very comfortable with commenting on the show directly, but I do get some questions every now and again when I sign off. But it's always, around the lines of how do I take advantage of this? How do I help? How do I become part of this in some way? How can I enable other people to take advantage of this? Those are generally the questions that I get.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the opportunity, where I see opportunity as well, in terms of collaboration, is research and development. We don't do a lot of that here. We don't do. I mean, there are many challenges that we have, but one of the things that we don't have, and what we need to do is to be able to be an incubator for research and development for various industries. Okay. And I'm not limited to just any industry. I'm just saying we need to start to become a place where we can now start to attract the kind of talent and the kind of institutional partnership to be able to now look at, for example, being, smart city technology. That's the next big thing. It's new, right? And a lot of countries and states and cities are racing to bring their infrastructure online. So this is a perfect opportunity we're at the genesis of that process. And so while we now have one of the leaders, Taiwan was one of the first countries to be able to step out and really push the smart city initiative. That's who we have as a partner. That's who we have as a partner to be able to say, okay, when we talk about how do we look at exploring research and development, we will have that in that partnership with Taiwan.
Okay. That's great, actually. That's amazing news. And we all know that they're experts at research and development, especially in the development component. They've been doing it for years. That's actually how they develop their economy. So that's very good news. When do you think they're going to start doing the process where our students can, travel over to Taiwan and they can come over to us? Is there any ETA on that?
Yeah, the conversation, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, obviously, it's funny. In 2020, Michael, one of the milestones that we were going to accomplish, we were going to set up a U.S. Virgin Islands trade and investment office in Taiwan. The governor and his members of his cabinet on the economic development side were going to be part of a delegation that was going to travel to Taiwan and meet with the high-ranking officials, having an opportunity with an audience. At that time, the president of Taiwan, we were going to participate in some events where we were going to meet the president of Taiwan. But this time last year, we were in the process talking to the various instrumentality of the Virgin Islands government about doing a public-private partnership implementation of a Virgin Islands trade and investment office in Taiwan. And that was supposed to happen around, I think it was anywhere between, I don't remember, my memory's not serving me correctly right now, anywhere between March and May was when we were supposed to travel to Taiwan. That was going to be a separate trip from the usual delegation. This was going to be a delegation for the governor, Governor Albert Bryan, and key member of his cabinet to sit down with their counterparts in Taiwan to be able to build and strengthen that relationship. So because of the pandemic, and obviously none of this happened, and
Right.
The hope is when things, resume back to normal, or we have some semblance of normalcy, we're looking at next year. Hopefully, we can get things back on track as well. So when you talk about ETA and timeline and stuff like that, this is what we're talking about.
COVID.
Yeah, hey, COVID.
Again.
COVID.
COVID again.
Hey, I miss traveling to Asia. As you know, I was traveling quite frequently to Taiwan. And the important thing is, and let me just show you the generosity of the Taiwanese people. And we can't just say uh, they're who they are. When we go, they sponsor the delegation. People need to understand that. When people see, these efforts and these organizing these delegation, when we've gone to Taiwan, Taiwan sponsors the Virgin Islands delegation to fly to Taiwan. See, that's not just propaganda. It's not just rhetoric. It is. So if people who are wondering, oh, they're taking government money and going to, flying over to Asia, da da da. I hate to disappoint you, but I'm happy to tell you that each time we've gone to Taiwan, the government of Taiwan has sponsored the delegation to Taiwan.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that being said, in terms of our trade and investment office at the World Trade Center in Taiwan, on the 7th floor, this is as you know, this is a huge complex. On the 7th floor, they have countries and multiple U.S. states and their offices at this World Trade Center. And what they were going to do when we set up this trade office, that they were going to help pay for us being able to partially pay for us having a trade and investment office in Taiwan. Again, for those who are wondering, where the money coming from, they were going to subsidize, okay, us being able to set up an investment in a U.S. Virgin Islands trade and investment office in Taiwan. So all of this is just not hot air, just talk. This is, real commitment on both sides, real money involved, laying the foundation and putting in place the building block to get us to build that bridge, if you will, between the Americas archipelago and the Southeast Asia archipelago as well. This is how we grow and attract and build industry and expand and diversify our economy. So I hope I answered your question, in terms of, what's next and when is this supposed to happen. Hopefully we can continue our efforts. Hopefully the COVID situation starts to, go with the, numbers starts to drop and we can start to resume normal lives. But until then, it's going to be a delicate balancing act trying to get things going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think you did. COVID, again, the criminal in the room, but I do think this is a great opportunity for all of us to take advantage of. I see someone here commenting.
Read that comment. Read that comment.
Says, good afternoon. For the many years trying to move and connect and move the connection between Taiwan and the Virgin Islands, what is the problem? Why hasn't it gained traction? That's right. From Medusa from St. John.
Right.
So she's asking, what's wrong? Why hasn't it gained traction as yet?
Can we say coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic? As we just said, what we were supposed to, the milestones and the benchmark of accomplishment that was supposed to start, what was supposed to be the building block in 2020, obviously, we're not being able to travel to the other side of the world has been an issue because of the pandemic.
Yeah. Is there anything else, maybe outside of, things that are outside of our control? Is there something, because Medusa might be someone that might be able to, move the needle in some place, right? So is there something that, we could be doing as a society or as a community to move forward?
Right now it's government to government, right? Government to government relationships. And so, what's it? It's called. It's called? I think it's called USAID. USAID. That's they're responsible for promoting investments in the United States, foreign direct investment in the United States. And Taiwan has always been a major investor. They're a major investor in the U.S. mainland. And so one of the things that we can note, an industry, the semiconductor industry, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is investing $12 billion in Arizona to build a $12 billion plant to manufacture the semiconductor chips. Now, obviously, we're new. We are a couple of years into this, and so, like we said, we have to lay that foundation, and then start looking at specifically what are those things we can do. What are those industries? What industries are they looking to expand and go overseas to make investments? We need to be able to determine what those are. We need to be able to talk about what does the Virgin Islands have to offer? What can we offer? To be able to say, how can we then position and align out the Virgin Islands to be able to provide, if not the export of goods and services, but human capital, connecting infrastructure, connecting data centers. There is just a host of different things we can do that we're at that early stage of the process of putting in place the building block to make that happen. And I believe
I think she has a new comment there. It says,
Yeah.
This has been something you have been working on years before COVID. She said civet, but COVID, I think she meant. We are in a new era of technology. There's still a way to proceed without traveling for now.
Yeah, it's
I think you're mostly referring to the closures of COVID, right? Not necessarily the ability or the lack of the ability of travel. Is more so, offices closing down, not being able to move, certain government offices being backlogged. All of these. If you think about the supposed inflation that we're having, it's pretty much the same thing, right? We didn't expect the economy to open this quickly. Therefore, we have a backlog of a lot of tasks that we need to get done.
Well, not only that, when you're dealing with a small territory and a small government and their order of priority, remember, this is a Virgin Islands driven initiative. It's going to require government and the public sector, government and private sector working together. Now, dealing with the COVID situation, the politicians and the government of the Virgin Islands, they're not thinking about right now. For them, priority is not trying to, what are we going to do in Asia? It is just not. And let's be realistic. They're trying to. One of the things that Taiwan did for the Virgin Islands was they donated 20,000 medical face masks to Wang Lui. Okay, Wang Lui Hospital, and we were talking about one of the other things we were talking about is being able to adopt the technology to start the manufacturing of PPEs in the Virgin Islands, building, manufacturing the face mask. But the property that were being considered and the to looking at the floor plan and the specs of the building, that property got taken off. They took the property off the market, and it requires a very specific configuration to be able, because the equipment is massive equipment that would need to be housed at this facility, not just horizontally, but the vertical. And so the height of the ceiling of that existing facility couldn't do it. So you would literally have to find land, new land, and build a new facility to house the ability to manufacture these PPEs and face masks. So when the question is asked, let me make sure I'm doing justice to what the comment that the person's making here. Medusa St. John's says this has been something you have been working on years before. I guess, like you said, is COVID. They meant to say it. It says CIVID. We are in a new era of technology. There is still a way to proceed without traveling for now. Absolutely. So the communication never stopped. We are in constant communication every week. And so what makes it difficult in terms of the things we can do, which is a myriad of things we're looking at. One of the things we were trying to do in this environment is to create manufacturing opportunities for us to be able to manufacture and supply PPEs not only to the U.S. mainland but to the region. But again, there are different things that are required, moving parts, real estate, site development for infrastructure, equipment, all these different things. And these things are not easy. It's not an easy lift. It's a heavy lift when you're trying to do that in extenuating circumstances called a pandemic. So I think we have a couple minutes left. Our colleagues didn't get to. They did say they were going to try their best if their schedule permitted, but they didn't call in. Where do you see, in terms of the app that you've created, is your app just for the U.S. market, or is Core Financial? Is there an opportunity to make this app scalable and available in the Asian market as well?
Well, any tech-based company is that's based on scalability, which Core Finance is, can be scaled to any part of the world, right? It's more of a matter of the regulatory bodies and the laws of that specific country. But for the most part, it can easily be done. You can access the site, you can access the app fairly easily anywhere. We are starting with the US market though. So we're going to start here. We're going to start in the Virgin Islands, keep it homegrown. And then we're going to make our way out internationally eventually. But we're definitely going to start here. There's a new comment from Medusa again.
Yeah. So Medusa says, I applaud your efforts. And we know that the community listens. We know everybody listens to the Virgin Islands radio world, right? Because radio is a favorite pastime in the Virgin Islands. So we know all the stakeholders are listening. And so here for those of you who can't see it, but they can listen to the program. Medusa out of St. John's have offered several comments, and this latest comment says, and for you politicians and government officials and managers and all, listen to what the person is saying. Medusa is saying, I applaud your efforts and I really believe in this venture, but I believe that you don't have the buy-in that is really needed, that this really needs to bring to the territory leaders into the circle of understanding. So basically, Medusa is saying that the capacity of our local officials to be able to understand the bandwidth, the breadth, the width, the depth of what we're talking about. Basically, Medusa is saying they don't have the understanding. Do you agree with that? You don't think our local leaders, politicians, government officials, they don't have the breadth of understanding to be able for them to buy into what we need to do? Remember, Medusa, this is not just a public sector effort. This is a private sector effort as well. So even if the government does nothing, private sector can still make headway. Even if the Virgin Islands government decided they didn't want to do anything. So anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. That was perfect, because I was about to say that I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but it also would kind of put it back on us, the private sector, the individuals, right? What are we doing to help this move forward?
Yeah.
So, for example, if we want to start a business, we can start with the individuals, right? We can start with the individuals, and then we can how are we contributing to the Virgin Islands success as a whole, right? So in my opinion, we are and we tend to kind of depend a lot on the public sector to make headway, to make the changes, to push forward. And while they are necessary and very important in the grand scheme of things, we can't necessarily count on them. And that's something that I've always, admired about you, Tony, which is, you don't necessarily have to wait for anyone to get the gist or everyone to come up to pace. Because as you mentioned, they have bigger fish to fry. They have a lot of things on their plate. So how do you juggle this new development with this that you've been working on for the last 6 months to a year? How do you juggle that, right? But what I do know is, the private sector has always been more efficient. It has always been more nimble. Where if we can get together, we can work together some way, somehow, we can move this forward. And this is also coming from my own experience with core finance. A lot of times people say, "Hey, you should work with a senator, or you should work with the governor," and I tell them that would be amazing. It would be great if I did that. But I'm just one company. I'm just yes, am I trying to give back to the community? Finance is a pandemic. We know it. Finance is tearing us apart. It's very crucial. However, I think that if as individuals we focus less on the entertainment videos and we say, okay, this is going to make a difference to my family, my community, where I live, then I am going to help this entity or this organization or this business grow, because on the long run, this is going to help me. It's going to help my children. It's going to help my family. It's going to help my friends. So that's the way that we should be looking at it, right? And you know what? I really stand by the fact that I think that if there's enough movement, the government is going to put their ducks in a row. They're going to find a way to kind of participate. But we can't expect them to create the opportunity and also push the opportunity and manage it, right? I think it has to come from both parts.
Hmm. And clearly, to your point, and Medusa, thank you so much, Medusa St. John's, thank you so much for your input and comment on the program on social media. So for folks that are watching it, they're able to comment that it's really important to make that distinction that this is a public-private partnership. Yes, the government has an opportunity to to participate, to contribute, to do their part. But if government does nothing, it does not stop the private sector from continue to forge ahead and to bring to fruition those opportunities. And so when we talk about what can be done, obviously we want to have that conversation with the politicians, the elected leaders, the bureaucrats, the government officials, we'll call them whatever you want to call them. They have to be able to sit at the table, understand the breadth and the scope of what is involved, but it's clear that if they do nothing, it doesn't stop us, the private sector, from doing something. That I can't make that point clear enough, Medusa. And yet I know we live in this microwave uh, uh, world. Everything has to be instantaneous. You put something in a microwave, you push in a button, everything booms in an instant. But when you're building these kind of legacy relationships, when you're building these macro relationships, it takes a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of work, a lot of effort, time, and sacrifice to be able to make this happen. These things don't happen overnight. It takes literally, from a construction point of view, when somebody wants to build a high rise or a bridge or some sort of infrastructure, from the time you start to do the planning, the engineering, okay, by the time you're done with the pre-construction design and engineering and architecture, to the time you hire your program manager to your construction manager, and then you hire your builder, literally 5 years easily. You can pretty much say 5 years is what it would need under barring any difficulty, barring any challenges, obstacles. Okay, and I'm giving Medusa this example because if you're going to build a building, from the time you hire your design team and your construction management team and the builder, it's literally 3 to 5 years to build one project.
Yeah, don't say no.
We started this in 2018.
Yeah.
So do the math.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. And what I will say too is you're not completely off base, Medusa. I think it is important to kind of put the pressure on the government and the public sector. So no harm done. So I would say continue doing that. Continue making sure that we're holding them accountable and that we're bringing them in as part of the process. But ultimately, it is our responsibility to push forward. And they're going to join in eventually when the time is right. Right. Okay. Everyone has a part to play. She commented again.
Yeah. So let's close out with Medusa St. John said, the connection of the government have for them to join, to have the University of the Virgin Islands and the Department of Education of other government sections to help the public-private partnership to create the curriculum for our children. Exactly. And on that note, Medusa, thank you for your input and your comment. And Michael, any closing thought before we sign off?
No, I would like to leave it at that. It's beautiful.
Okay. Fantastic. Folks, to be continued. Thank you so much for tuning into the Marketplace Reset Show, segment number 3. And today we focus, this was part 2, on the segment on smart city technology and Internet of Things and the digital transformation of our economy. This is Anthony Weeks, and with Michael Gerard. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk next week.
Peace.